Evening, everyone. Good evening, students. Hope you have got your result and preparing for the NEET and CT exams. So we have stopped in the biomolecules and the last concept, that is lipid definition, classification, their chemistry and the metabolism. You need only a few things, which is very important, that comes in the NEET and CET level. Okay, we'll try to complete those concepts in this chapter. That is the end concept of this biomolecules chapter, which chapter biomolecules. The biomolecules. Okay. Here we'll study the lipid definition, the classification, the chemistry, and the metabolism. So coming to a definition, lipid constitute a heterogeneous group of compounds of biochemical importance. Hetero means two. So there are two groups of lipids components. They have biological importance. Lipid may be defined as a compounds which relatively insoluble in water. Some lipids they do not soluble in water, but they're freely soluble in non-polar solvents and like organic solvents like benzene, chloroform, ether, and hot alcohol. Even at the acetone, it will be soluble. Okay, so that is the main thing. So lipid is never going to dissolve and never going to soluble in the water, but they can easily soluble in the non-polar organic solvent. What is non-polar? Polar means positive and negative. Each ions will be having positive and negative. They will attract with each other. Okay. So where non-polars will be having positive charge, negative charge, like that. No? So that kind of solvents like benzene, chloroform, ether, or alcohol, and acetone, these lipids can soluble in this kind of solvents. So let me see the functions of lipids. So lipid functions, the storage form in the energy. They store in the form of triglyceride. Okay. Triglyceride like COOH, COOH, COOH. Okay. So this is one example I have given. So in this form, they will going to store the energy. This lipid store in the energy from triglyceride. Okay. Next, the structural component of bio membranes, these phospholipids and the cholesterol. Actually, these phospholipids and cholesterol, they found in the human cell, or no, not in the human cell, all the cells of the animal cell, whatever the animal or plant cells, they will be having plasma membrane. Hope you have heard about this plasma membrane, right? Have you heard about this plasma membrane, right? Plasma membrane. So this plasma membrane will be having two lipid layer. Okay, we call this as a phospholipid bilayer. So let me write here. So let me do here. Yes, I'll rub this. I'll use this box. I'll show you how this plasma membrane look like, and then I'll start to. You all study the cell, the unit of life, right? Uh, let me take the eraser and rub it this. Let me write the biomolecule here, phospholipid. We call this as a phospholipid bilayer. So this is the phospholipid bilayer. Here, the In between, there is a cholesterol. In between these lipid layers, there is a cholesterol. Okay. So this is formed in all the cells. Okay, all the plant and the animal cells, we can look this. This is a phospholipid, lipid bilayer. It's not a single layer, bilayer, and this is a cholesterol. Okay. So this lipids structural component of the biomembranes. Biomembranes is nothing but the plasma membrane will be having phospholipids and the cholesterol. These are two constituents of the lipids. Then metabolic regulators like steroid hormones, that hormones that produce in our some of the hormone and some prostaglandins, those are lipid. Okay, some of them are lipid in the origin. Then some of them act as an electric insulators in the neurons. In the neurons, some of them they act as a electric insulators. And also some of them they provide a insulation against the changes in the external temperature. Like what is this? We call this as a thermostasis. Okay, like balancing the temperature. Subcutaneous fat will be maintained on the external layer of our skin. Okay, so because of that, the temperature will be maintained. Okay, and also it's a main lipid is a very important constituent, especially for the um, especially for the cell also, even for our body also, because it gives a and give and maintain the shape of a body or shape of the cell. Okay. Then protects the internal organs from providing cushioning effects like pads of fat. Okay, cushioning effect it will give. And also it will helps in the absorption of soluble vitamins like A, D, K, E. Okay, all this absorption it will be easy because of this lipid. Then also this lipid improves the taste and the palatability of the food. Okay, these are the functions of the lipid. Improves the taste and the palatability to food. Next, coming to clinical application. What are the clinical application here? Explains. Here, excessive fat deposit cause the obesity. Okay, fats are good. Okay, but excessive fat it could cause the obesity, and it could create abnormality in the cholesterol and the lipoprotein metabolism, leads to an uh, atherosclerosis and cardiovascular diseases like heart attacks or cardiac arrest. It may leads to excessive, this capillaries there, right? Blood capillary, especially pumped towards the heart. Okay. Here, if the fat deposition, the circulation of the blood will be paused. Because of the circulation of the blood will be paused, it may leads to cardiac arrest, sudden heart attack. We call that. Okay. A heart attack. Exact. There is a difference between the cardiac arrest and the heart attack. Okay. Heart attack, the deposition of this lipid uh, from many days, and it will give a sign of pain on the shoulder, but ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ cardiac is a sudden pausing up of this blood capillaries, and it will not allow to circulate the blood. Okay, so excessive lipid ಏನಾದ್ರೂ deposition ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ in the capillaries, it may cause cardiovascular disease like heart attack and cardiac arrest. Okay, and also in diabetes mellitus, uh, the metabolism of fatty acid and lipoproteins are drainage and leading to ketosis. Ketosis, one of the syndrome, it may leads to an excessive uh, lipids may cause to this syndrome. Okay. Then there are classification of lipids based on the chemical nature. The lipids are classified into simple lipids. Okay, then compound lipids. The simple lipids, they are esters of the fatty acid. This is very important. With the glycerol and other higher alcohols, they actually subclassified into triglycerol or triglyceraldehyde or neutral fat ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. And second ಬಂದು wax. Okay, so ಇವೆರಡು ಬಂದು simple lipids. Where compound lipids are, they are fatty acid esters with alcohol. Where this is esters of a fatty acid with the glycerol. Okay, fatty acids plus glycerol. That or other higher alcohols called simple lipids, where compound lipid fatty acids esters with the alcohol, not the glycerol. Okay, but in addition they contain other groups depending on the extra groups like subclassified phospholipids, where you find these phospholipids especially in the plasma membrane. Correct, no? And non-phosphorylated lipids such as lipopingolipids. This is also one type of a lipids that's also seen in the plasma membrane. Okay. So ಎರಡು ಲಿಪಿಡ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮಾ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಸ್ಪಿಂಗೋಮೈಸಿನ್ ಅಂತಾನೂ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಗ್ಲಿಸರಾಲ್, ಅಂಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಿಪಿಡ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಒಂದೊಂದಕ್ಕೂ ಒಂದೊಂದು ನೇಮ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ಸ್ಪಿಂಗೋ ಗ್ಲಿಸರಾಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಾಸ್ಫೋಲಿಪಿಡ್ಸ್, ಅಂಡ್ ಅದು ಬಂದು ಕಾಂಪೌಂಡ್ ಲಿಪಿಡ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, glycospingolipids. It's actually carbohydrates. Okay. Then derived lipids, the third class, that is the derived lipids. They are compound which are derived from lipids or precursor of a lipids. They are the precursor of lipids like fatty acids, steroids like hormones, prostaglandins, leukotrienes, terpenes. Terpenes, where do you find this terpenes? Terpenes ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂತ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸೆಕೆಂಡರಿ ಮೆಟಾಬೊಲೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಟಾಬೊಲೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ಎನಿಬಡಿ ನೋ? ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಮೆಟಾಬೊಲೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಇದೆ. ಲೈಕ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಂಟಿಬಾಡಿ, ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇನ್ಫೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಫೈಟ್ ಅಗೇನ್ಸ್ಟ್, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ದೇರ್. Like extra, like we have a hairs on our skin, so that is the secondary metabolites for the protection we have. It's not necessity to be having this hairs, no, only for the protection. So this kind of hormones, this kind of metabolites we called as a secondary metabolites. Many plants have a secondary metabolites. For example, many plants produce gums.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಬೇಜಾರ ಹತ್ತಿರ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದಂಗೆ ನನಗಿಲ್ಲ.
So many plants, especially many plants produce secondary metabolites like gums irbodu, resins irbodu, even the colors, okay, adirbodu, even terpenes also is produced from the plants. Most of the 90% of the secondary metabolites is produced from the plants only. Okay. Then for details of cholesterols and steroids also, and the fifth one is lipid complex or other compounds like proteolipids and lipoproteins. Lipoproteins are also found in the plasma membrane. This is found in the plasma membrane, that is here. Okay, this is all about So how many types of lipids? Classification of simple lipids, compound lipids, derived lipids, and lipid complex or complex lipids or other compound proto lipids or lipoprotein. Next, come to fatty acid. Fatty acids are straight chain hydrocarbons with a terminal carboxyl group. Fatty acids are included with the group derived lipids, and it is the most common component of lipids in the body. So these fatty acids are very important and they have a straight chain. Then in the human body, free fatty acids are formed only during the metabolism. Metabolism is a growth, okay? So that time the free fatty fat are formed, and this fatty acids that might be a aliphatic carboxylic irbodu illa aromatic irbodu. So aliphatic idre the general formula will be this one, the RCOOH, and if the carboxylic group is a COH, okay na? Then it represents the functional group. And depending on the R group, the hydrocarbon chain will be decided and the fatty acid may be wave. So R group ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಈ R group ಇಂದ the different fatty acid vary ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ R group ನಲ್ಲಿ CH3 ಬರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ CH4 ಬರ್ಬೋದು ಆ ತರ. Okay, it will change. But you don't need that much of knowledge to clear this. Only in this chapter. In this concept, the last type of fatty acids, types of lipids. Then, classification of the fatty acids depending on the total number of carbon. So, as I said, for example, here, ಈಗ COOH ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ COOH ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ COOH ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು 3 ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ನೇಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಲೈಕ್ even depending upon the carbon chain, this is a carbon chain. So here, depending on the total number of carbon atom, even chain having a 2, 4, 6 and smaller series. Most of them naturally occurring lipids, even chains are the fatty acids. So ಕೆಲವೊಂದು 2, 4, 6 carbon chain ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು odd chain ಇರುತ್ತೆ like 3, 5, 7 and are seen in the microbial cell walls and especially present in the milk. Okay, milk alli ಇದು present. And depending on the hydrocarbon chain. So hydrocarbon chains 2 to 6 in the short irutte carbon atoms, where medium chain bandu 8 to 14 carbon atom irutte and 16 to above usually irutte bandu. So depending on the nature of the length of the hydrocarbon. Then depending on the nature of the hydrocarbon chain, here the structure of the fatty acid might be saturated or unsaturated. What do you mean by the saturated? ಈಗ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಈಗ ಇದು ಹೀಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೀಟ್ ಆರ್ ಹೀಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಓಕೆನಾ? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಹಾಕಿದೆ, ಸಾರಿ ಫ್ಯಾಟಿ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಹಾಕಿ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಹೀಟ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮೆಲ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಓಕೆನಾ? ಸೊ ಮೆಲ್ಟ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ದ ಚೈನ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಚೈನ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಲೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ sometimes. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಅನ್ಸ್ಯಾಚುರೇಟೆಡ್ ಸ್ಯಾಚುರೇಟೆಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಈ ಮೆಲ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಸ್ಯಾಚುರೇಟೆಡ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಕಾರ್ಬನ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಸಮಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಇದು ಅನ್ಸ್ಯಾಚುರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಇವಾಗ ಯಾವಾಗ ಹೀಟ್ ನ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಈಗ ಫ್ರೀಸರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಇದು ಫ್ರೀಸರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಓಕೆನಾ? ಇದು ಫ್ಯಾಟಿ ಆಸಿಡ್. ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಗೀ. ಗೀಗೆ ಅಪ್ನ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಈಗ ಗೀನ ಬೇಯಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಮೆಲ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ಬಾಂಡ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಫುಲ್ ಒಂಥರ ವಾಟರ್ ತರ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಲೋ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಬಂದು ಸ್ಯಾಚುರೇಟೆಡ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಕಾರ್ಬನ್. ಇಯರ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್, ಬಾಂಡ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮೆಲ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಇದ್ರ ಫ್ರೀಸರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟಾಗ ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ತುಪ್ಪ, ಘೀ. ಓಕೆ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅನ್ ಅನ್ಸ್ಯಾಚುರೇಟೆಡ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಕಾರ್ಬನ್. ಇದನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಇನ್ ದ ನೀಟ್. Then significance and functions of the cholesterol. Here the heart disease, the level of cholesterol in the blood is related to the development of atherosclerosis, and abnormality of a cholesterol metabolism may lead to cardiovascular disease, accidents, and heart attacks. Okay, so usually LDL, low density lipoprotein ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ, LDL and HDL. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಯೂಶುವಲಿ ಈ LDL ಯೂಶುವಲಿ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಲೆಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅಂಡ್ ಇದು ಹೈ ಡೆನ್ಸಿಟಿ ಲಿಪೋಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್, ಇದು ಲೋ ಡೆನ್ಸಿಟಿ ಲಿಪೋಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್. ಇದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಇದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಸೊ ಯೂಶುವಲಿ ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಲೋ ಡೆನ್ಸಿಟಿ ಲಿಪೋಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ 90% ಆಫ್ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಮೆನ್ಸ್ಗೆ. ಹೈ ಡೆನ್ಸಿಟಿ ಲಿಪೋಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಟೈಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದೇನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಕಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಸೊ sometimes this LDL that is low density lipoprotein is maintained by one hormone called estrogen. This estrogen hormone is only produced in the female body. Okay, it only produced in the female body and less in the male body. Okay, ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ರೇಟ್ಸ್ ತುಂಬಾನೇ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಲೋ ಡೆನ್ಸಿಟಿ ಲಿಪೋಪ್ರೋಟೀನ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೈಯರ್, ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಲೋ ಇರ್ಬೇಕು. ಹೈಯರ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಟ್ ಕುಡ್ ಲೀಡ್ಸ್ ಟು ಸಮ್ ಕಾರ್ಡಿಯೋವ್ಯಾಸ್ಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಡಿಸೀಸ್, ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್. Then coming to the other significance and function of this cholesterol, cell membrane. The cholesterol is a component of the membrane and has a modulating effect and a fluid state of the membrane. So fluidity, fluid mosaic model anta kelidira, fluid mosaic model. So plasma membrane yavaglu adu fluidity na maintain ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Sometimes fluidity ಅಂದ್ರೆ fluid ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು lipoproteins move ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, sometimes fluid ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಟೈಮ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಫ್ಲೂಯಿಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ದ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಲೈಕ್ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದ ಔಟರ್ ಲೇಯರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ cell and they have a plasma membrane. Each an ion will be moved inside the cell only by taking the permission from the plasma membrane. So plasma membrane are selective membrane. They select the ions, they select the chemicals to get into the cell. Okay. So adu ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, some gates ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ion gates ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಓಕೆನಾ? ವೋಲ್ಟೇಜ್ ಗೇಟ್ಸ್, ion gates ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. It's not that much important for you, but ಆ ತರ ಇದೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಆ ಗೇಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ಸತಿ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂಡ್ this are maintained by this fluid mosaic model. It will give the shape of that cell and will be maintained. Third thing is the nerve conduction. Nerve conduction, cholesterol is a poor conductor for electricity and used to insulate the nerve fibers. Nerve fiber na insulate ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ this fatty acid, also the cholesterol. Fatty acids is nothing but a cholesterol. Even the lipids, ಇವೆರಡು ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ನರ್ವ್ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸೆಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಗೆ ಮೇನ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಕೊಲೆಸ್ಟ್ರಾಲ್ ನ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂಡ್ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ನ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಸೆಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್. nerve conduction ಮತ್ತೆ bile acids ಮತ್ತೆ bile salt. ಡೈಜೆಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಈ ಬೈಲ್ ಆಸಿಡ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೈಲ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ. 24 carbon bile acids are derived from the cholesterol. Bile salt are important for fat absorption. Fat absorption ಗೆ bile salts ಬೇಕಿವೆ. Then especially for the steroid hormones. 5 carbons are very important for the steroid hormones. 21 carbon glucosteroid are important for the glucocorticoids, corticosteroids. And then 19 carbon androgen and 18 carbon estrogen are synthesized from the cholesterol. And also vitamin D, it is also synthesized from the cholesterol only. Okay. So this is all about the detailed structure. Istu sakange istu explanation is more than enough to describe the lipid, their structure, definition, and the metabolism and the fatty acid. Most of the time, these lipids are highly present in the plasma membrane and also in the form of fat in the body. Okay, now, so that is very important. So that's all about lipids. In the next class, we'll take up, I thought to take the digestion and the absorption. And then I thought this concept has not completed. So thought to complete today. Okay, this lipid concept has been done. There will be left with only one that is called an enzyme. So what do you mean by an enzyme? What do you mean by an enzyme? Enzyme are catalyzed metabolic reaction in our body. Most of the enzymes are proteins, ribosomes, and RNA, and acts as an enzyme. So my question is, all proteins are an enzyme? I said, all enzyme might be a protein. This is very important. ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಇದನ್ನ, ಓಕೆನಾ? Just a minute. I'll write it here once. Here, all enzymes are protein, but all protein are not an enzymes. Okay, this is very important. So ಎಲ್ಲ enzymes protein ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ protein enzyme ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ. And enzymes have an active site where specific substrate binds and transient ES complex is formed, which converted to EP complex, and then the product will be released. Like for example, ಈ ತರ enzyme ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Each enzyme ಮತ್ತೆ substrate ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Substrate ಬಂದು ಈ shape ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಈ shape ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ರೌಂಡ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ನ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು shape ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಆ ಶೇಪ್ ತಕ್ಕಂಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಎರಡೂ ಮರ್ಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎರಡೂ ಮರ್ಜ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಎಂಜೈಮು, ಇದು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್, ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಈ ಕಾಂಬಿನೇಷನ್ ನ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್, ಈ ಬೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ನ ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್. ಇದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಇದು ಈಗ ಕೀಗೆ ಲಾಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಆ ತರ ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಕೀ ಲಾಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಲಾಕ್, ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಕೀ. ಓಕೆನಾ? each and every enzyme or protein, we call this protein also, no? ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಕೆಟಲೈಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾರೆ ಮೆಟಬಾಲಿಕ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ದೆನ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ರಿಲೀಸ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ there is temperature is very important, the pH is very important, the concentration of the substrate regulate the enzyme activity. Enzyme activity is also regulated by binding other substrate like competitive inhibitors, inhibitor reaction, binding, active site, ಮೆಲೋನೇಟ್ ಇನಿಬಿಟ್ಸ್. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಇದನ್ನ ಅಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ನಾನು ಈಗ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಎಂಜೈಮ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ನೀಟ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಗ್ರಾಫ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಆ ಗ್ರಾಫ್ಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಪಿ ಎಚ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎಂಜೈಮ್ಸ್ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಸಮ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಐ ಟೇಕ್ ಟುಮಾರೋ. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ, ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್, ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನೀಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಿರೋದು, ಮೇ ಬಿ ಮತ್ತೇನು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ದೋಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ದಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಟುಡೇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. Thank you for everyone attending the class.